Ireland. Now, St. John of God today is Saint. He was 1550, so the 16th century for St. John of God. Interesting story it is too. Founder of the Brothers let me pronounce this right. Hospitallers, it says here. I wonder if that should be Hospitaliers with an I rather than two L's. Known to us here in Dublin, St. John of God's, of course, a very wonderful place where the many are treated for illnesses of the mind, and I know a number of people who've been through the wonderful care of the brothers of the St. John of God's brothers, very well known here and very much loved in Dublin. I don't know if there's a St. John of God's elsewhere in the country. I'd have to look that up now. Maybe you can help me out and just let me know. He was born in Portugal. He joined the mercenaries of the Count of Oroprusa, Castile, mercenaries, in 1522 and fought for Spain against the French and the Turks, notably in Hungary. In the army, he gave up all practice of religion, army and fighting and military things. Probably not that conducive to faith practice. Although, you know that expression, there's no atheist in a foxhole, that when you're confronted with life and death, faith doesn't belong coming to the surface. So at any rate, I'm sure the influence of the men and so on, and the coarseness, I suppose, that goes with military life too, wouldn't help religious practice so much. At any rate, on the disbandment of his troop, he went to Andalusia and worked as a shepherd. At the age of about 40, he was converted to a life of dedication to the service of God in compassion to the poor, extending, he thought, to martyrdom in North Africa through helping Christian slaves. Obviously a man of great zeal. St. Ignatius, of course, another saint having a military history, and again, these men who are ready for any battle of any kind, taking on the world, become great soldiers for Christ in turn. To the centurion in the Gospel. Again, these, or who was the military man who came, I think the centurion at the foot of the cross, but was there another centurion, the one who came to Jesus? I tell one man go here and he goes, and one other go there and he does. Only say the word and my servant shall be healed, which we use at the Mass ever since. Again, another military man, and the Lord's words to him, nowhere in Israel have I found faith like this. Took a Roman soldier to set the bar really for us. So it was about 40 when St. John of God converted to a life dedicated to the service of God. He was strongly advised against going to Africa at the time. So in Gibraltar, he became a peddler who sold sacred books and pictures so successfully that he opened a shop in Granada in 1538. If you're familiar with the south coast of Spain there, I've been to a number of those places. Gibraltar, of course, is only a short ferry nowadays from North Africa. It would be a logical place from where to embark for Africa. I doubt it was in the hands of the English at that time. Again, I'm not certain of that history. And Granada is a little bit northeast, if I remember correctly, of Malaga. So I just remember it took us an hour and a bit or something from where we were anyway, the Costa del Sol, that visit to drive to Granada. Lovely place too. In 1538. So went to Granada to open up his shop. He then suffered a period of apparent madness, running aimlessly through the streets, tearing his hair, and giving away his stock of books. John of Avila, St. John of Avila, a famous visiting preacher, calmed him and persuaded him to devote his energies in future to the care of the sick and the poor. I wonder, we diagnose that maybe today as post-traumatic stress, maybe. Who knows what awful things he was exposed to during his military years, and indeed what, his former life. So, it's true of converts. It's worth making note of. We might envy sometimes those who have this massive conversion experience, and all of a sudden, they find faith and they're just on fire, and just, we feel like, here am I just plodding along from day to day and just hanging in there. And why can't I have some of that zeal and some of that passion and some of that fervour? But inevitably, it's true of the spiritual journey that first fervour and first zeal will fade, because life is simply like that. We just can't all live at that level all the time. It's simply not possible to maintain that sense of fervour and zeal. Perhaps with exceptional grace, more of us kind of live at the level of a certain, it's an unfair word, I suppose, but mediocrity. That's probably a negative way of looking at it, but we kind of live at a level of sort of ups and downs, and we have down and bad days, and it's like, oh, can't get out of bed today. And we have up days when we're really good, but in general it's a kind of a middle of the road commitment that holds good in terms of energy for the long run. If we're operating at this high pitch of energy all the time, or we're relying on emotional highs on the spiritual journey all the time, well, that can only last, you see, up to a point. And so these great gatherings, things like the Divine Mercy Conference now, marvellous, high, lovely moment. And it's a transfiguring moment that sustains us onward into the sort of the mediocrity, again, for want of a better word, the humdrum, the ordinariness of our lives. Those moments are lovely. They do help us. And I hope that Radio Maria is that sort of, again, a gentle companion along the way, that we don't do the high drama. We don't, as I often say, we don't seek to generate heat or sensation or exaggeration, or we just try to keep the pot stirred. It's sort of keep the food cooking. Sort of keep it going. Again, with a view to the long road. You can make a big fuss and about things, and from time to time. For instance, a pilgrimage, again, it's another lovely moment. It just gives us, our meeting last week in Urba with the priest directors and the presidents of the Radio Maria stations around Europe with the world family. It was a lovely kind of a high, a kind of a transfiguring moment. And these are good to just help us along and just recharge us and enthuse us a little bit more, that we don't fall into the equilibrium of mediocrity and just sort of settle with that and then no more. We need the constant energy. So perhaps St. John of God, that was his experience. So his fervour, no doubt, needed to be channeled correctly. And a good spiritual advisor would say that, now look, hold back on some of that enthusiasm, that energy, because on the one hand you're likely to burn yourself out, and on the other hand you're bound to annoy a lot of people with this newfound fervour. Go easy and learn to contain it and to measure it out and thank God for it, and anticipate those days when things won't be going that great, and I won't have the energy and the fervour that I might sometimes otherwise have, and parcel it out a bit more evenly would be a good spiritual advice. And I suspect St. John of Avila was the one who calmed down St. John of God and said, look, redirect those energies now into the care of the sick and the poor. So he left hospital in 1539, rented a house in Granada and filled it with sick and poor people. Both his efficiency and his devotion astounded the townsfolk. So again, obviously a man of great capability and capacity, and once he got the right direction and once he channeled it appropriately, it started to bear great fruit. The bishop gave him a religious habit, and for over 10 years he worked with the utmost devotion for the physical and spiritual well-being of his patients. His ceaseless energy was balanced by prayer and austerity. His final illness was brought on through rescuing a drowning man in a flood. He died before the altar of his hospital chapel at the age of 55. Gosh. So really, 15 years really was his from his conversion. After his death, rules were drawn up for his followers, who took vows and became a religious order, which claimed him as their founder. He is patron of hospitals and the sick, but also booksellers and printers. lesser known fact there. So St. John of God, booksellers and printers, and of the sick. And again, much praise and debt is due to the brothers of St. John of God here in Dublin, especially for the marvellous work they do, and especially caring for those with mental illness. Thanks be to God for that, for those people who see the dignity and sanctity of the human person and human life in the light of, even in the absence of full mental capacity. Wonderful. So I'm going to chat with Patricia Keane there, and it is hoped just some little plans afoot with something that's been on our agenda for a long time, really, and we have dipped into from time to time, but to dedicate a series of programs or a time to the very question of mental dis-ease and mental illness of all kinds, emotional, the physical elements of it, and indeed mental incapacity of all kinds too. So looking forward to that. It's a lovely idea, and Patricia, no better woman just to kind of get things in place. And please God, we'll include various experts and people who are in the know, and maybe note to self here as well, maybe to contact people like the St. John of God brothers and those who work in our mental health institutes or institutions, those involved in these things, and covering the broad spectrum indeed of all kinds of mental dis-ease, and because there's a long litany of psychiatric disorders, psychoses and neuroses, and all kinds of poor afflictions that many people suffer from, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, just mentioning just a few. And narcissism was one that Patricia brought up as well, that we live in a kind of a narcissistic world. And is that a mental, is there something mental going on there too? And all the kind of dysphorias too. There's books, of course, are written. There's specialist areas abound in the whole question of mental disorder and dis-ease. But what I think I'd love to see us do, and I hope we will address it, I'm no expert at all on these things, but encounter many people suffering in that way very often, and do my best to be at least a listening support of some kind, which is the place to begin, to try to help towards a diagnosis, and then trying to define or trying to come to terms with, where does it overspill or overflow into the spiritual realm, and how much influence is the spirit in relation to the mind. We speak of body, mind, and spirit, of course, and that the spiritual in the order of grace can do untold good to help bring about mental balance and restore mental balance, and not discounting for a moment or excluding by any means all of the wonderful medical assistance that's there too. And so there's a very careful path of discernment necessary to carefully see what it is that a person may be afflicted with by way of illness or dis-ease of the mind, and help to begin to treat it. But I'm certainly convinced, and it's been my pastoral ministry and my always my duty, that when I meet people suffering illness of the mind, that I would invoke the full power of all the sacraments in that case. I had a man who used to come to see me, and oh gosh, he suffered so much from depression. And no, I wasn't a clinician, certainly not qualified diagnostically, and in no way qualified as a therapist either, none of these things. And I made that very clear from the outset. John, actually, I was visiting the doctor some time ago, and he asked me, actually, how do you, as a priest, how do you approach people who come into the confession manifesting ill health of one kind or another? And I said, well, listen, for my part, I'm the very first to recommend a visit to the doctor. And do you mind if I ask you, doctor, do you counsel or direct people in the way of the Spirit? And he kind of stepped sideways a bit. I think no was the body language answer. I got to that. But I mean, how doesn't it make sense that body, mind, and spirit, that our spiritual lives, that those who practice faith are among the happiest people on the planet? Those who have faith and believe are those who enjoy the best health, physically and mentally and emotionally. It doesn't mean it's not a panacea, nor is it a switch to flip. It's nothing of that kind. But in general terms, we can say that those who are close to the Lord Jesus in faith and in hope and in charity enjoy far better health. And you can see that, for instance, a typical example, or one you might point to, is the religious sisters. They have a propensity to live on forever. They live to fine old ages in general good health. Again, not without all the various problems and things that arise, of course. But isn't there something to be said for that? Because they live in community, they live a life of great sacrifice and commitment, and a life of deep faith and prayer. And why would these not be very healthy ingredients for a long, healthy life? All other things being equal. And so it obviously, an ingredient to that must most necessarily be that of faith and that of spirituality and closeness to the Lord, and of course divine grace. So this man who used to come to me, I would again employ all of the means at my disposal by way of the sacraments. And he would come for confession, and I would give him the sacrament of the sick, and I would pray with him and pray over him and encourage him. I think he was good, I think, to get to daily mass, or at least when his mental ability allowed him to be able to get up and get out and do it. And I always used to try to help him understand, look, it's a very healthy and noble thing to try to get to Mass each day. If it is that your health otherwise disables you from being able to work at anything consistently, then do at least try to put into your daily routine a visit to the church and a Holy Mass, as insofar as your health allows. Because even in that activity, there's something noble there. There's something, again, it's an expression of selflessness, of giving that time to the Lord and invoking the Lord's healing and light and blessing into your life, and a chance then to meet and greet and socialize with other people. And in that interaction, that does have a way of drawing us out of any inward excess, perhaps, that we might engage in or indulge in on account of mental disability and dis-ease. So the spiritual component, even from a practical standpoint, very, very crucial and very important. And not to mention, of course, the power of grace in the holy sacraments. And confession is one of the best forms of deliverance and of healing that I know. And in fact, I was thinking yesterday, I must chat with Deacon Don, and I must join him for his power hour, and I must chat with him and chat with you on the healing dimension of the sacrament of confession as a priest, and in my practical ministry and in my own availing of the sacrament often myself. I would be a wreck. I would think a complete washed up wreck were it not for the sacrament of confession. And that's not an exaggeration. And the devil certainly has me in his crosshairs. You better believe it. So again, confession, a tremendous antidote, great source of consolation and healing and deliverance, and no doubt for peace of mind, which is really what I'm just dwelling on a little bit here today. So I'm looking forward to that idea, thanks to Patricia, and again, there's so many things that need to be done here at the studio. I have all these wonderful ambitions of embarking on these various topics and things to do, and I need your help. I need the help of others. I physically can't get around to it all, and anyway, I wouldn't have the expertise, I wouldn't have the capacity, the ability to speak on these things with any great authority, except for my own pastoral experience. And so if we can draw in those who are well experienced and who have wisdom to share with us on this, we welcome that very, very much indeed. Now, can I just mention our novena in honour of St. Patrick? I think it starts today. Father John Mokler, I know, is starting today on Wednesday, but we had fixed in our minds that we're going to start tomorrow and end on St. Patrick's Day. If we start today, it ends on the eve of St. Patrick And maybe that's the right novena there, the right 9 days. Anyway, we won't get too upset. It's 9 days. So Father John Walker is going to join us and pray and invoke the power of St. Patrick here on Radio Maria. We'll fit it in as part of our daily routine. It's a pre-recorded, lovely moment of prayer that we're going to begin tomorrow until St. Patrick's Day. And from tomorrow as well, we're having a novena of the radio. And it's our little Mariathon, little mini Mariathon, to invite you to be part of the mission of Radio Maria. So we posted that up on our social media. We're celebrating all things evangelization and the great power of mission activity that's going on in our church as we speak. Every parish I go to, now I must sit down and calculate how many parishes I've been to. Is it 100? Is it 150? Is it 200? I know it must be well over 100 by now. There's 1,300 parishes in the country, and I know there's a lot of territory we have yet to visit and cover. So I'm guessing it's over 100 parishes at least, maybe 150, that I've been to see. And that's a sizable, it might be a tenth maybe of the country. That's that's not a shabby result. And I have seen in every parish I've gone to. We were in Limerick at the weekend on Childers Road there, Lady of Lourdes, and I said it to them there too. And I looked down at the congregations, and I'm just so edified and privileged to see many, many, many good people of deep faith still very committed to their church and very committed to their parish. Beautiful church, Father John Walsh done a lovely job on just decorating the church. Our Lady of Fatima, the Divine Mercy, all these beautiful devotions, his beautiful crucifix on the altar, which is modelled after Pope St. John Paul II, the one that he used to carry. Lovely, lovely crucifix. Really tastefully done, cleaned and painted and in very good order, and the people coming in faith. And I met a good number of lovely people after Mass as well, the 2 Masses we were at. So everywhere I've gone, we've seen just wonderful people, and it's so heartening and so encouraging. So this week, or this novena from tomorrow right through to St. Patrick's Day, we're really going to give emphasis to the great power of the missionary work that's going on in Ireland, the evangelizing work that's going on in so many areas. So we have invited all our friends from as many organizations as are active in evangelization in the country to come and chat with us. So keep an ear out. This should be a lovely, uplifting and energizing time for you, and we want you to be involved in this mission too. Radio Maria is a new source of evangelization and formation, and please do get in touch with us as part of our week of St. Patrick. Let it be your little thing for St. Patrick, certainly to pray with us, but also give us a shout, send in a little message on WhatsApp for St. Patrick's Novena in honour of our great saint who planted the seed of faith in our country. That together now it's our turn to be Patrick and Patricia today and evangelizing and spreading the good news. And so many of you do that as a way of promoting Radio Maria, and for that 2 enthusiastic thumbs up, we appreciate very, very much that work of evangelization that you do with almost without realizing that you are part of the mission of Radio Maria and the mission of keeping the faith going in our generation for the next generation. So we're celebrating that this week as part of our novena in honour of St. Patrick by way of great hope and encouragement for you and energizing and enthusing you in that work and that path. So we hope to hear from, we've made calls and we have a few of them lined up, the likes of Youth 2000, the Legion of Mary, Focus, the Holy Family Mission, some of the new religious communities. We hope, please God, the Sisters, Friars of the Renewal, Home of the Mother, Nashville Dominicans, these new wonderful groups that have come into the country, and there's others too, to come to the microphone and share how are they doing. Here they are in the footsteps of St. Patrick in Ireland. What do you think yourselves? How is it going? And share with us the blessings and the privilege and the gifts that you have brought with us to us here, and that you are sharing with us now. And how do you see things going? Where are we at here And so Radio Maria is joining the ranks of that. Of course, you have other online wonderful sources of media as well. Immaculata Productions. Note to self there. I must follow through. Did the lads follow through on that one? Call to More, Katie Asco. Again, another online Irish source. Oh, the one in the two lads down in the south. Can't think of their names. But they have a wonderful online ministry too. It'll come back to me. And then the great pro-life movements that are going on as well. We hope to dip into that resource as well. There are people of great dynamism, again, a great conviction, who are evangelizing today in so many ways. It's beautiful to see. And you kind of have to, it's like a painting or a tapestry. You have to kind of stand back a bit and realize, man, look at all this good that's going on and the great need there is for it today. So our St. Patrick's Novena is just that, and because it's part of the mission, the ways that you are part of that too is through your prayer, through your letting others know about Radio Maria, sharing the gifts and blessings of it, and indeed through your financial assistance. And we want to put that out again, please, for your Lenten journey. Do consider all of your favourite charities, of course, too. There are many, many noble ones, but please help us here on Radio Maria as well to meet our needs. They are formidable, but they're only formidable because we have grown, and the blessings have snowballed. We're just chatting with Liz a while ago, and Liz is quite new this year, but just commenting on the number of people who said Radio Maria is my lifeline. It has changed my life. It has saved me. We hear that from many, many listeners. You cannot put a price on these things. This is today's mission, and we're glad and proud indeed to be part of that. We thank God for it, and we thank God for you. So please help us in our little Mariathon now this week. Just another little push forward. Be kind to us through your prayer and your sacrifices, your sufferings too. Immensely spiritually fruitful. Certainly tell others, talk about it. I mean, that lovely visit to the nursing home there on Saturday to Sister Assumpta, her 90th birthday, that was the topic of conversation. You know, what is Radio Maria? What's it all about? Who is this priest? Where is all this coming from? And just love it just to see the word kind of bubbling and trickling along, and that, please God, more people will discover this gift. And then we are at your service. We are here to help encourage that and magnify the Lord in the hands of Our Lady here at Radio Maria. So your financial offerings again are part of that, and we pray for you, we thank you, we bless you for that. So this is a little Mariathon to help us again, just a little push forward to help us in our work. So thank you for that. Great, let's pause there for a little bit of air, a sup of water and a little breather, Sospiog, and we'll have a little piece of music. As always, please do call us up 014123456 if you're in the north of Ireland, or elsewhere +353 141233456. Very easy to remember. Text us and WhatsApp us only. Don't call the number, because it's a studio number. We can't answer it because it's in front of us on the microphone. So unless you want to be live on air, but that's another story. But text and WhatsApp us 089 467 2000. 089 467 2000. Shout out to Maureen. Maureen is in Bantry in the hospital there, and Maureen, beautiful lady, we met there, and thanks to the welcome we received from the staff there in Bantry Hospital and the caring end of it there. Maureen listens to Radio Maria constantly too, but poor Maureen, she's paralysed from the neck down, but is such a great fan of the radio and a great woman of prayer, and has helped us with a little fundraiser. God bless her down in Bantry. Marvellous. So shout out to you, Maureen. Shout out to Sister Assumpta again today. And you know who I forgot to give a shout out to is Pat, the postman in Court McSherry. Pat, I met at the Divine Mercy Conference, and sorry for neglecting you, Pat. I hope you're listening in, that you're not pushing letters in the door. But as he drives on his round around Kerry there, he is listening to Radio Maria. So we have a postman in his van bringing Radio Maria around the countryside. So thanks for that, Pat. Great to meet you at the conference too, and thanks for your support. And no doubt you're having the odd chat here and there with people, and maybe telling them too about Radio Maria Ireland. So well done. So they're the two numbers, +353 again from the north, 89 467-2000 to text and WhatsApp us. And of course, email us info@radiomaria.ie, and drop any comment you like here on our social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. And we always like to hear your feedback and comments there too. Very good, Nuria. We'll take a little pause and we'll be back very shortly.
What wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul? What wondrous love is this, O my soul? What wondrous love is this that caused the Lord of bliss to bear the dreadful curse for my soul, for my soul, to bear the dreadful curse for my soul. What wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul? What wondrous love is this, O my soul? What wondrous love is this that caused the Lord of bliss to send this precious peace to my soul, to my soul, to send this precious peace to my soul. To God and to the Lamb I will sing, I will sing. To God and to the Lamb I will sing. To God and to the Lamb, who is the great I am, while millions join the theme, I will sing, I will sing. While millions join the theme, I will sing. And when from death I'm free, I'll sing on, I'll sing on. And when from death I'm free, I'll sing on. And when from death I'm free, I'll sing and joyful be. And through eternity, I'll sing on, I'll sing on. And through eternity, I'll sing on.
A lovely piece of music there. I haven't heard that one before. That's a really nice little piece there. Welcome back to Radio Maria Ireland. Father Eamonn with you. A question came in there, thanks to Mary on behalf of Biddy. Simple question, interesting one to answer. Should we stop ringing the bell during the consecration during the season of Lent? So the elevation, I assume, Biddy means when the host is raised. Well, there's three occasions, isn't there? The epiclesis, when the priest puts his hands horizontally face down over the gifts, and sometimes there's a little movement downwards. Let your spirit come upon these gifts, and the bells ring, ding-a-ling. Then the raising of the host, this is my body given up for you, the raising of the chalice. And sometimes at communion time, as the priest partakes of the Blessed Sacrament, the bell is rung. These are little customs, little traditions, and no is the answer. The bell is rung all the way through Lent, but maybe you know that from once the Gloria is sung or said at the Mass of the Last Supper on Holy Thursday night, this is the solemn Triduum of Holy Week, that the bells are rung all the way through the Gloria on Holy Thursday night, and then once the Gloria is finished, the bells are put away, and they're not rung again until the Gloria is sung are said on Easter, at the Easter Vigil. So Thursday, Friday and Saturday are it's a continuous liturgical celebration. There are no bells rung. And you might remember from your younger days, I'm not sure if they're around nowadays, little wooden clappers or that for the consecration at the Mass of Holy Thursday, the Mass of the Last Supper. These little clappers kind of make a funny noise at the consecration instead of the bells. And that's the only time they're ever used, because there's no Mass on Good Friday, there's no Mass on Holy Saturday. And the bells are reintroduced for the Easter Vigil. So thanks, Biddy. The answer is yes, we keep ringing the bells during the consecration. What is anticipated, or is certainly in the liturgical instruction at the beginning of the Missal, is that there should be no flowers at all on the sanctuary and around the altar. And there should never be flowers on the altar. That's worthy of note. That's there in the instructions too, because the altar is not a windowsill. It's not a place for decoration. The only things on the altar are those essential to the celebration of the Mass. Even the candles, it's recommended, should be to the side. And I've been trying to source a couple of good candles to put them to the side of our altar too. That all that's necessary is the book, a microphone if you use one, the corporal and the sacred vessels. That's it. And only during the rite of the liturgy of the Eucharist, and the altar is laid, and then the altar is cleared off and should be completely empty. Otherwise, because it just emphasizes the sacredness of that space. So there should never be flowers on the altar. By all means, flowers around the altar and its statues and everything. Flowers are very beautiful and very much a part of our living worship of the Lord, but not during Lent. Again, this idea of no bells, well, no flowers. We might bring them out for St. Patrick's Day here, is true, but otherwise no. It's interesting. It's just a way of anticipating into the wilderness and then celebrating, of course, for Christmas. Sorry, Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday. Now, can I just mention the Rally for Life? I'll mention it again too. Precious Life and other pro-life groups are holding a Rally for Life on Saturday the 11th. So this coming Saturday at 2 p.m. in the Custom House Square in Belfast. And preceding the rally, a special Mass for Life will be celebrated in St. Patrick's Church in Donegal Street in Belfast at 12:30. Everyone who supports a culture of life is asked to pray for the protection of the unborn and make a special effort to attend the rally. So this Saturday, 11th of March at 2 p.m. in the Custom House Square in Belfast. And of course the Northern Ireland situation with regard to life and issues there. There was kind of cross-party consensus, I think, for a time, wasn't there? There great support for life. So having Westminster impose again legal availability of the unborn, it's a fraught question, but good to be able to have that Mass for Life. It's a spiritual one too, a spiritual battle. You know, our adoration continues here all the way through Lent with that in mind, for faith and for life in the whole of Ireland. And our prayers go with you, all those involved, in the March for Life at 2 o'clock on the 11th of March in Belfast, Custom House Square, and the Mass then in the St. Patrick's Church, Donegal Street, 12:30 on Saturday as well, the Mass for Life. A little word too, if I may, about International Women's Day, and this is one of the days again the Church has instituted to pray indeed on this day, and the Pope reminding us too that there's significantly more women now working at the Vatican, have roles there. In the past 10 years, the number of women employed at the Vatican has risen significantly to 1,165. Never before has the number of female employees and their share of the total staff been higher, according to a Vatican News survey. The number of women in Vatican leadership positions has also grown under Pope Francis, and this is very good. So it was compared to 846 back in 2013, so it has risen quite substantially to 1,165. The percentage rose in the total workforce from under 19 to over 23%. Now you might say it's still not 50-50, but again, the inevitability of a male priesthood modelled after Jesus Christ means our roles are different but complementary. And I said yesterday, and we'll always say, how the role of religious sisters complements so beautifully in the parish the work of the priest. So we must look to both indeed. And indeed, it is so many wonderful, wonderful women who sacrifice themselves so much in the life of the church, in the parish community, who do such great work and ministry too. And that must also be acknowledged. So it's good that in the Vatican, indeed, women are making their way to more senior positions as well, and bringing their expertise to bear. And it says 5 women hold the rank of Under-Secretary and 1 the rank of Secretary at the Holy See. I guess that's a civil service title there. It doesn't mean... It means a sort of a different thing, I think, in the civil service, the same sort of idea. It's a very prominent position. If you're a secretary of a department in the government, that's the top-ranking civil service job. So good to see that. Thanks be to God. So we pray for our women, and thanks be to God for their involvement so much in the life of the church. Now, I must leave it there, I'm afraid. It's 12 o'clock. Thank you so much for being part of our radio programming today. Thanks to Nuria looking after camera and sound today. And Dave's just overseeing the things there too. It's 12 o'clock. Let's pause now. Let's pray together our Angelus and Midday Prayer.